Well, right now we are going to start the student presentation. We are going to follow our meetings order, you know? So the Polish thing is going to be the first, the second, the Portuguese one, the third, the Spanish, and the fourth, the Bulgarian, and the last one, the Italian, okay? So.
Hello, my name is Mateusz and this is Tomek, and we would like to give you some information about Poland. Santiago de Compostela. There are over 30 roads leading from Poland to the shrine of the Apostle Saint James the Great in the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela, popular with individual hikers, cyclists and organized tour groups.
They are made with the scallop shell, the traditional emblem of Saint James the Great. And this is the shell. Italy, the place where our national anthem, called Song of the Polish Legions in Italy, was born. This is the text of Polish anthem. And the lyrics of present Polish anthem were written by Józef Wybicki in Reggio Emilia, Cisalpine Republic in northern Italy between 16 and 19 of July 1797, 2 years after the first partition of Poland as the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth from the map.
It was originally meant to boost the morale of Polish soldiers serving under General Jan Henryk Dąbrowski, Polish legions that served with Napoleon's French Revolutionary Army in the Italian campaigns of the French Revolutionary Wars. It was also performed in Reggio Emilia for the very first time. Portugal, Fatima. In 2018, Poles were the second most popular foreign nation of pilgrims to the sanctuary in Fatima after Spaniards. Several thousand people arrive there in organized groups every year. The night number of Poles in Fatima is probably due to vivid memory of John Paul II and his close ties with this sanctuary.
Częstochowa in Poland, with its famous Pauline monastery of Jasna Góra, is a twin town for Fatima. Bulgaria, Władysław III of Poland. In 1443, the Polish king Władysław III began an armed expedition against Turkey, and the fighting took place in what is now Serbia and Bulgaria, when on November 10, 1444, his army was blocked by the Turks. There was a battle of Warna on the Black Sea, which ended in the defeat of the Allied army and death of Władysław III on November 10.
According to some accounts, the Turkish Sultan kept the head of the Polish king as a war trophy in a pot of honey for many years. King Władysław III was nicknamed Wareńczyk by the Bulgarians and is recognized by them as a national hero. Thank you for watching.
5th century BC was situated on a marshy peninsula near Mesopotamian lake, so it needed a bridge giving access to the mainland. The settlement was surrounded by a dike made of mud and wood 4 meters wide and about 6 meters high. It consisted of 3 rows of wooden boxes filled with clay and stones. And the dike that was a gate with a 3 meters wide and 250 meters long bridge. The Arabian newcomers remained visible all the time when approaching the settlement. 5th century bridge in Japanese. Summer campaign during the Great War with the Teutonic Knights. The construction was secretly prepared, floated on the Vistula River, and assembled above Cherwings on June 13, enabling Polish troops to cross the river within 3 days. Then the bridge was dismantled and floated to Płock. It was used again at the end of September 1310 at Przybust, where Polish forces crossed on their way back from Prussia. This had a significant impact on the Battle of Grunwald. Gothic bridge in Płock. The Gothic bridge over the Monówka Canal in Płock was built in the 13th century. It was originally made of stones, egg whites, lime and sand as the building mortar, with 6 barrack statues flanking it inside a pita, a sculpture of Saint John Nepomucene, of Saint Wenceslaus, and of Saint Francis Xavier, the Holy Trinity, crowning the Virgin Mary. The bridge resembles the Charles Bridge in Prague. It is the second oldest raw iron suspension bridge in Europe, made from parts made of 57 tons of raw iron and 14 tons of steel, suspended between 2 towers on each side of the bridge. There are 4 chain cables which support the span. The deck was made of timber. The bridge was used as a road bridge until 1938. Then it continued to be used for pedestrian traffic only. Road and rally bridges in Czech. They were built in the 19th century of John Berlin and East Prussia and made of granite basalt, sandstone or iron respectively. On September 1, 1949, the bridges were built. Polish railway rented a freight train from Malbork and was carrying a company of Wehrmacht sappers. After fixing the cables, Polish sappers blew up the eastern part of the bridges, and than the Western pillars. In relation for that, the Nazis shot 21 Polish cavalrymen, customs officers, and members of their family. Bridge in Wyszogród. The place for the crossing was prepared during World War I in 1916, when German sappers erected a steel bridge on wooden pillars here. After being destroyed in September 1939, the bridge was rebuilt in 1944 as completely wooden. Blown up in January 1945, after reconstruction, it received steel spans, but retained a wooden bridge and pillars. Due to the terrible technical condition and high costs necessary to protect the structure, the bridge was dismantled in 1999 after the opening of the new one constructed in the area. Only the two-span section of the structure on the Wyszogród side was preserved as a viewing platform, but it was demolished in May 2013. Bridge in Bridges Stanczyk is notable for two large relief viaducts, sites modeled on Roman aqueducts at Pont de Quart. Roughly 200 meters long and 47 meters high, both are among the largest such constructions in Poland. Built on reinforced concrete, the northern viaduct was constructed between 1912 and 1914. The southern one was added between 1923 and 1926. Thank you for watching.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Now the Portuguese students will do the presentations. I will give them the word. Okay, so.
Hello, my name is Lara.
I am Linda.
My name is Luana.
And I'm Ana.
Portugal and Spain share the same location, the European continent, the southwest corner of Europe, the Iberian Peninsula. The peninsula has seen several people and forms the government forgot the countries from having two distinct political entities, two distinct dynastic union between the monarchies of Portugal and Spain. Iberian Union. Today, Portugal and Spain are two independent countries with a very close institutional relationship. Spanish and Portuguese language share a large number of words that are spelled identically. Most words in both languages originate from Latin. The Portuguese language and Spanish language are two of the world's most spoken language and make up a broader linguistic group known as Ibero-Western language. As these languages are so similar, a large number of Portuguese think they can speak Spanish. In reality, they speak Portuñol, which results from the mixing of Spanish and Portuguese and allows speakers who were not proficient to communicate.
Some important dates and events in the history of the world were also shared by our two countries. In 1494, Portugal and Spain signed the Treaty of Tordesillas, which divided the newly discovered lands outside Europe between the Portuguese Empire and Spanish Empire, their side belonging to Portugal and the west to Castile. The Philippine dynasty, or Habsburg dynasty, was a royal dynasty that reigned in both countries during the period of political union between Portugal and Spain. That is when the King of Spain was also the King of Portugal. The three kings of the Philippine dynasty ruled in Portugal between 1580 and December 1, 1640. On 17 March 1949, Portugal and Spain signed the Iberian Pact, a non-aggression treaty that marked the beginning of a new phase in Iberian relations. Meeting between Franco and Salazar, the country's rulers played a fundamental role in this new political arrangement. Both countries joined the European Union on 1 January 1986. The Spanish peseta and the Portuguese escudo were replaced by the euro on 1 January 1999, as both countries were among the first to adopt the European currency.
José Saramago was a Portuguese writer and recipient of the 1998 Nobel Prize in Literature, who lived most of his life in Spain. He was married to Pilar del Rio, a Spanish woman. In one of his most famous novels, La Balsa de Piedra, writing in 1986, the Iberian Peninsula has broken off the European continent and is floating freely in the Atlantic Ocean. Saramago was an Iberista, as he considered that Portugal would inevitably join with Spain and that a united Iberian Peninsula would benefit both countries. Santiago Calatrava is a Spanish architect and engineer now in Portugal for Gardo Oriente, which was constructed of the 1998 Lisbon World Exhibition. The interior of the station features a forest of right columns like giant trees, and the structure appears to be moving. Cisa Vieira is a Portuguese Pritzker Prize-winning architect who designed the Barcelona Meteorological Center, the Contemporary Art Museum, and the Faculty of Information Science.
Cristiano Ronaldo is a Portuguese football player who played for 9 years in Spain. Ronaldo joined Real Madrid in 2009 for a world record transfer fee at the time. Many fans attended his presentation at Santiago Bernabéu. Iker Casillas Fernandes is a Spanish professional football who played as a goalkeeper for FK Porto, on best Portuguese football clubs. Casillas became well-loved in Portugal, and following his heart attack, has been given a role on club's coaching staff. Thank you. Não digo nada. Agora falhou.
Essa é a minha folha.
Não consigo.
Presentación de diapositivas. Presentación con diapositivas. En medio. Ahí un poquito más arriba. Un poquito más arriba. Ahí, eso. Y ahora allí.
Ahora le vamos a
Ahí sí. Ahí. Dale. Ahí. It's okay.
y se va.
A enter. Ponéis algo ahí. Sí, va ahí. Bueno.
Well, now our student presentation is about authors for our different countries who didn't use their mother tongue to write. Okay, so.
Hello, my name is Carmen, and I'm going to introduce my partner's presentation. Literature does not change the world, but it builds bridges to get peace. There's no more solid and less tangible bridge at the same time than language can be. With it, we can express our emotions, fears, joys, sorrows, and hopes every day. With it, we can greet, ask around, wish, express doubts, inform about our own concerns, and about what is around us. However, and writers know a lot about it, language is not always enough to express everything that we need to convey. Thus, some authors have refused to use their own native language, but not because of that have they stopped creating literature, as they have resorted to another different language to let us know their feelings and opinions. Some of them because they have been raised in a multicultural environment, and that is the reason why they become bilingual speakers and even plurilingual, even though they generally tend to write in their own native language. Other writers, as they become migrants, decide to avoid in their own native language in favor of writing using their foster country's language instead, and therefore targeting a wider audience. It is worth noting, perhaps it is coincidence, the fact that all the countries comprising our Erasmus group illustrate this example of what has just already been said. A chronologic criterion has been adopted to provide a brief summary of each of the following writers.
Hi, I'm Ana, and I'm going to talk about Gil Vicente. Gil Vicente, one of the most important Portuguese writers in history, wrote over 50 plays, from which only 11 were written in Spanish. The reason is quite simple. During the 16th century, the court of the Portuguese kingdom, Manuel the Lucky Man and John III, who had been married to Spanish princesses, were bilingual. That is the reason why such famous Portuguese authors wrote most of their plays in Spanish. However, Gil Vicente did not write in Spanish because of fashionable trends, but because of aesthetic conviction, plausibility, and decorum according to the character of his plays. Shepherds had to express themselves by using a traditional language, whereas the aristocracy uses a more elevated tone. By then, Spanish was the language which nobles mostly spoke.
Hello everyone, my name is Samuel and today I'm going to talk about José María Crespo. Jose Maria Crespo, commonly known as Jose Maria Blanco White, born in Seville in 1775, and later, 35 years, he moved to London, where he ended up becoming an engineer and writing English language. Once he arrived there, as he saw that he could not express himself fluently properly, he devoted himself to study it more in depth. Without giving up his mother tongue, he wrote his works in English, which have been acknowledged as real masterpieces. Letters for Spain, the sonnet Night and Death. So, he also wrote in English some controversial plays in which he criticized Roman Catholicism, a practical and internal evidence against the Catholicism, or the poor man preserved it against properly, which was addressed to the lower classes of Great Britain, Ireland, and also autobiographic plays such as Examination of Blanco by White. In the case of Blanco White, it was the necessity of expressing his own ideas in the country in which he found shelter as a refugee, because he would never go back to Spain. What motivated him to change the language in his literature? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Luis, and I'm going to talk about Joseph Conrad. Unfortunately for the Polish friends, nowadays no one knew the name of Joseph Theodor Kindernalek Konstantinowski, who was born in the country when the city of Berdych, today in Ukraine, used to belong to Poland occupied by Russian. However, no one doubts the fact that today Joseph Conrad is one of the most acclaimed English writers of all times, but there are, of course, the same person. Joseph Conrad received, since he was a little boy, education in several languages, including Russian, Polish, and French. Besides, he could manage in Latin, German, and Greek. At the age of 20, he found out that he came from Poland occupied by Russian, so he was likely to be called to war in Russian army. He moved to England and worked as passer of the crew in the coastal boat. In his free time, he developed and illustrated his Shakespeare works, and which helped him to improve his command of English language. At the age of 37, after achieving the English citizenship to become part of British marine trading, he tried to give a chance to his graduating his first novel, and his growth in English, what meant a hard task for him, because apart of having a thick accent, he was quite aware of own limitation as a non-native English speaker. But it was in language that developed as a well-known the brilliant masterpieces. No one doubts about the great quality of his narrative. Conrad is the best example of the writer who searched for a language with the could best express as much as he wanted to say.
Hello, I'm Alvaro, and I'm going to talk about Elias Canetti, the Bulgarian author. His birth in 1905 in the Bulgarian city of Rostock, today Ruse, then an active port and linguistic and cultural meeting point, where in only one day you could easily find 7 or 8 different languages, allowed the great Elias Canetti to live the first day of his life immersed among different languages. At home, he used to speak in Judo-Spanish, his family's language for centuries. But at a very early age, he could listen to and understand and speak different languages, using them as a tool of communication and creation. Since he was little, Canetti was able to understand the world around him, considering the existing plurilingual, literary, and linguistic diversity. As our Bulgarian partners know, many peasant girls who used to work in his house were the ones who taught him the language of the country he was born in. But little Elias would forget it as he left the country at the age of 6. The reason of his election of the German language to his writing was quite curious. It was the language spoken by his parents, where they want him not to overhear what they were actually talking, and as he could not understand it, he associated that language to something mysterious. It is certain that Canetti improved his German when his family moved to live in Vienna. That city, in a certain way, conquered his private language spoken by his parents, and it will be in the German languages, the one in which Canetti wrote his work. As a British citizen, he gave his speech using the German language when he received the Nobel Prize of Literature in 1981. As a personal decision, a writer will choose one particular language from a wide range of options, and they will be loyal to it anytime they start writing something.
Hi, I'm Claudia, and I'm going to talk about Antonio Tabucci. Lastly, we find an example of one of the most acclaimed writers in Europe over the last few years, the Italian Antonio Tabucci, who can be seen as an Italian-Portuguese writer. He was an excellent translator of Fernando Pessoa's works, a person who really loved Portugal and who used to live both in Toscana and in Lisbon. Soon before his early death, he obtained the Portuguese citizenship. His most important and remarkable literary work was written mostly in Italian, but there is one that he wrote directly in the Portuguese language, Requiem uma alucinação. The explanation for such a language change in his literature was given by the author himself. It was inspired by a dream where his father spoke Portuguese, and therefore he could only have written in that language. This was clear evidence of the love he felt towards the language that he studied and that seduced him.
It is true that Fernando Pessoa himself wrote Minha Pátria é Língua Portuguesa, which we interpret a recognition of love as a tool we use to write. But from here, we prefer to support what we have previously said, that quote said by my love, that is opens our words and with which we put an end to this speech. Literature does not change the world, but it does build bridges to get some peace. And peace forced by writers will always be to be able to express themselves in the language that they freely choose from. For that purpose, literature can really help. Thanks for your attention.
Here presentation.
Hello, I'm Lorenzo, and we are talking about how literature could be a metaphorical bridge. The resistance is a political military movement which during the Second World War opposes Nazi fascism in Italy after the armistice of 8th September 1943 with the Anglo-American allies. Men and women of any age, social class, religious faith, or politics who were called partisan participated. For young people who don't know the history of yesterday, it is important to understand the meaning of that experience, precisely from the words of those who lived it, to be ready to defend and preserve the democratic freedoms hard won, and today more and more often erring. Beyond the Bridge. This poetry tells about the story of the resistance that an elderly partisan told to a girl with peach cheeks, symbol of a shining and unconscious youth, from Italo Calvino's words and Sergio Liberovich's music.
Beyond the Bridge, an image that divides war from peace, life from death, good from evil, with the hope that love will win over every other attempt at destruction. This story becomes a baggage of values and ideals to be handed down to the new generations. It is a story of courageous choices, a desire for redemption and freedom.
Calvino's text come from personal experience of fighting in a formation of the communist bridges. The writer recalls the season of his 20s when, taking the road of the mountain, so many young people had fought to build a humanity more just for themselves and their children. The bridge in the hands of the Nazi fascists, perhaps at the center of military action, becomes a metaphor for the hardest transition from a condition that mortifies man by depriving him of freedom to a more just and more serene world, where one can love and cultivate hope.
Only by communicating to the children the true meaning of the struggle will not be lost the drive towards human redemption that has animated the resistance, a story that is likely to disappear when there will be no one to witness it. Many musicians have reproduced the song, among them the Modena City Ramblers, who have rearranged it with Irish sounds close to their personal music research, and in 2005 they included it in the album Appunti Partigiani.
Oh ragazza dalle guance di pesca, oh ragazza dalle guance d'aurora, io spero che a narrarti riesca la mia vita all'età che tu hai ora. Coprifuoco la truppa tedesca, la città dominava, siamo pronti. Chi non vuole chinare la testa, con noi prenda la strada dei monti.
Silenziosa sui laghi di pino, su spinosi ricci castagne, una squadra nel buio mattino discendeva all'oscura montagna. La speranza è la nostra compagna, assaltar caposaldi nemici, conquistandoci l'armi in battaglia, scalzi e laceri eppure felici. Avevamo 20 anni, non
Thank you for watching.
Perfetto.
One station, we are going to visit our school. Okay, so you are ready, we can go to make a visit, right? You